Hello and welcome back to the No Huddle podcast, a special edition. It is trade deadline Tuesday. As of me recording this, it has been just around an hour since the trade deadline has passed, and holy crap, did so much stuff happen today. I want to say, in like my whole time of being a football fan, this is by far the most eventful trade deadline I can remember. Um, before this, I would probably say I'm biased, but I would say the trade deadline a couple years ago when the Niners got Christian McCaffrey would be like the most eventful one. But it's safe to say nothing compares to this. This was truly like an NBA trade deadline feeling of old. The amount of breaking news I got, I couldn't put my phone down. Every time I tried to do literally anything else with my day, something would break and I'd have to go back to my phone. It was crazy. I felt like such a screenager. Like every time I would like try and watch like a little TV show on the side, or because I had a very chilled morning, and then I had to go out for just a second to like go grab some food. Nope, instantly. Go check your phone again. Oh, my phone's blowing up. Quinnen Williams got traded out. Gardner got traded. Unbelievable. So it's safe to say we have plenty to talk about today. I actually had a whole like thing ready for all of the Week 9 games. I wanted to talk Bills Chiefs. I want to talk Colts Steelers, but we may have to we'll see if we'll get to those, but because right now we have trade deadline stuff to talk about. So let's just get straight into it. I'm so excited about this. Let's start with, of course, the biggest headline of today. Heading in, we had some inclination that the Jets were looking to move some of their pieces, right? We had rumors that they were looking to move Breece Hall. We had rumors that they were looking to move on from Jermaine Johnson. And both these guys are like young, talented players. Jermaine Johnson had some injury issues last year, but usually a team doesn't trade, young developing players that look like they could take that next step. So when that stuff came out, it's like, okay, cool. But it seemed like their stars were off the table, right? Or it was like they'd have to be blown away by some like magical offer. And right now, if you look in the NFL, there's so much parity, frankly. There's no juggernaut in the NFL. There is no clear favorite at all. I think you could have said Kansas City last week, but with them just losing to Buffalo, I don't think you could say they're by far and away the best team in the league. So we have, for the first time in a long time, we have no idea of clearly who's going to win the Super Bowl or who could even make it. Like right now, if I had someone peg out championship weekend, they probably would bat like 0 for 4, maybe 1 for 4 if they like just put the Bills or the Chiefs in. Because frankly, no one knows. This year, there's no, especially in the NFC, there's like 7 teams battling out for 6-2. The reason why I go on that rant is that is the logical explanation for why some of these teams gave up the amount of capital they did this trade deadline. Let's just delve into it from the Jets side of things. I like what they did today. It was a very, very difficult pill to swallow. It was, you're giving up your franchise icons. I don't know how many people have gone to a freaking Jets game, but you go and you see their fan base. I guarantee you, like 50 to 80% of their fans are rocking a Sauce Gardner jersey, a Quinnen Williams jersey, and maybe a Garrett Wilson jersey, but he didn't end up getting moved. So to give away your franchise cornerstones, guys you just gave contract extensions to. Sauce Gardner was extended 3 months ago for 4 years, $120 million. A contract that, by the way, got a lot of flack that they're now getting out of. But to see those guys go is frankly heartbreaking. It's got to be a brutal, brutal day to be a Jets fan. Even if you look at the compensation, like, well, that's good compensation. It's not. It's hard to think like that. I remember when the Niners traded Buckner, and it's like, okay, you got the 13th pick in the draft. That's a really good deal, but it still hurt. And of course, like we botched that pick. So it's so hard to say, well, like look at the first round picks you got, but it's something that at least gives them some comfort in this. So I go back to like the old Bill Walsh saying, I think this was Bill Walsh or it's some other major Niners thing or from the glory days. It is better to get rid of players a year early than a year too late. And the Jets hit that perfectly with this trade deadline. Heading into the deadline, I would have thought that the max Quinnen Williams would have gotten was a high second, maybe a first, right? Because he had like less of a contract thing. And I thought Sauce Gardner was just flat out unmovable. I'm like, you just committed to him for 4 years. I guess I never bothered to look at their cap structure until today. And it turns out Sauce Gardner's deal was really movable. So the Colts will actually end up paying the majority of that salary for the rest of his contract. But getting 3 1s and a 2, plus Adonai Mitchell, former second round pick, plus Mozzie Smith, a former first round pick. Even though I'm not the highest on those guys, but it is better to get rid of players a year early for a reason, right? If the Niners had gotten rid of, I don't know, I always go back to the Niners, well, because that's, of course, the thing I know. If the Niners had gotten rid of Debo 2 years ago, you could have gone a high second, maybe a first, and you end up having to get rid of him for a fifth, right? Getting rid of players a year early is smart organizational management. So the fact that they were able to turn those two guys, who are, again, phenomenal players, but getting out of Sauce Gardner's contract now, right, and not having to pay it, I think, past this year, and getting 2 1s out of that is unbelievable. It is such a huge move for them. And I love the draft capital they got, not very much so this year. I think this year they're going to get the Colts pick, which, if you look at that defense, holy crap, we're going to get into that. It's going to be somewhere between 25 and 32, so not the greatest first. Getting a second from the Cowboys, which will probably be like 50, 45, I don't know, like somewhere in that ball range. But if you look at it for 2027, they get the Colts first round pick off of, and if you look right now, the Colts quarterback next year is Anthony Richardson, if you just look at the salary cap. So good, very interesting pick. We'll see what the Colts do this offseason. That'll be really fun to talk about. And they get the best of the Packers or the Cowboys first round pick. Plus, they'll have their own. So either they draft a quarterback next year, they're able to take all of the lumps his rookie year. It doesn't matter. There's like no expectations for the year. And they get, he's able to develop, make mistakes, and the Jets pick will be really good. The Cowboys pick, which it's not going to be the Packers pick in 2 years, so it'll be the Cowboys pick. The Cowboys pick is probably going to be 15 to 20 max. And then the Colts pick is just like, we don't know. It's a complete wild card. So the ability for them to have 3 first-round picks then to potentially go get like a Jeremiah Smith or an Arch Manning, something like that is really, really interesting. If I were them, honestly, that 27 draft looks really good. So in this 26 draft, just keep trading down, get more and more future picks. I really do like this vision, especially the reason why more teams don't do this. They don't ship out like their young talent like this is because, frankly, head coaches and GMs' jobs are going to be on the line. Not many head coaches can afford to take a year where you probably get 2 to 3 wins at max. We've seen the amount of one and done coaches just completely skyrocket over the last few years. We've seen the number of coaches who especially get fired in their second year skyrocket. Brian Callahan got fired 3 games into his second season. Now, don't get me wrong, it was deserved. But we saw him get the axe. We saw, sorry, my mind's blanking. But he's not like the only he's not the only guy who gets fired in his second year. Gerard Mayo got fired after 1 year. I don't know why it took me so long to pull Gerard Mayo out. But to have the full backing of ownership, like Woody Johnson was not lying in that owners meeting we had a few weeks ago when he's like, I fully believe in Aaron Glenn. And this reflects that. It's like, okay, we're going to fully, remove everything off the ship. You're the guy leading us now. Let's go figure it out. You're captain of the ship. Let's go. You pick the guys we're going to get, the young guys we're going to bring in, everything. We want you to have full control. And we're going to get rid of these guys from the previous regime, even if they're really good players. So I like the confidence that they're showing that this is the Jets becoming a more stable organization, in my opinion. Now, again, it is the Jets. So there is 100% a chance that we look back in 2 years and like these idiots botched 5 first-round picks, and now they're with a new head coach. So don't get me wrong. I am very, very understanding that this is the Jets. But I do like what they did. It is really, really bold. Not many teams are willing to do this because, frankly, it is a slap in the face to your fans. It's like, yeah, we're going to suck for the next year and then change. So, just kind of got to deal with it. Sorry about that. Next year and a half, we're probably going to win 5 games. Okay. Yeah, like, it's not a thing that many fans are going to be willing to, or not fans, sorry. It's not a thing that usually ownership is going to be willing to swallow. But they are, which I like. I find very interesting. On that note, like, of course, there is no guarantee that with those 5 first-round picks, you find yourself a Sauce Gardner. You find yourself a Quinnen Williams. Especially Quinnen. It'll be really, really hard to replace a guy like him. but it puts them in a really, really good spot for their future. Let's say one of these quarterbacks for 2026, whether that's the kid from Indiana. I don't know why I'm saying kid like he's older, because he's older than me, but whatever. We get the quarterback for Indiana, Dante Moore, the quarterback for Oregon. Let's say one of these guys emerges and is, the consensus first overall pick, which it doesn't look like will happen, but let's say it is one of those guys. Then the Jets are probably going to end up with the number one pick right now because they have one freaking win. They'll probably end up with that guy. And then they're going to have 4 more first-round picks in the next 2 years to build around him, plus entrenched tackles and a franchise receiver. There's a lot there. Like, that's a really, really promising spot to be in. Or, I don't want to say worst case scenario for the Jets. It's just a different scenario. Let's say no one emerges as that top tier quarterback. They really start to like the guys coming out in 27. Whether that's, I'm not sure if it's the South Carolina guys coming out in 26 or 27, but he shows a lot of potential. And then obviously the name that first comes to mind is Arch Manning, which we'll see about that one. I think the first ever pod I had was me talking about not liking Arch Manning's first game. Fun little throwback. But yeah, whether it's like one of those guys, and 27, they're going to have 3 first-round picks. They can move wherever the hell they want to on the board because of all that ammunition. Plus, like, even if they end up with the first round overall pick, and maybe the Colts fall off, maybe the Cowboys have a disastrous season, then you can pair them with someone else. There's just so many possibilities here, and I really like it because it's just Woody Johnson giving Aaron Johnson a mound of clay and saying, okay, you go craft it. You have 3 years. Figure it out. I'm going to move on now. That was the Jets piece of it, which obviously, again, they were the most important team at the deadline. But let's see about those teams they actually gave those players to. So for the Indianapolis Colts, Sauce Gardner, man, it's we knew heading into the deadline that the Colts really wanted a corner. They'd been calling teams for multiple weeks. That was all the reporting that was coming out. I think a lot of it was Jordan Schultz, so really, really good insider to follow. We've been getting reports that they wanted like a defensive player, especially, and like a potential star impact player. So, safe to say, Sauce Gardner absolutely fills that role. I know there are a lot of people saying that they got fleeced and the value, and of course they're going to give up a premium to get a 25-year-old corner at the deadline. Like, even I think they gave up a lot. Probably if they waited until the offseason, it could have been maybe a first and a second, or a first and a young player. We don't know. But the ability to bring in Sauce Gardner right now gives them this insane combination of Mooney Ward, who will be back, I think, in like a week or 2. He's coming back from a concussion that happened in pregame warmups, of all things. Sauce Gardner and Kenny Moore. And I know that last name may sound, especially to like non-giant nerds of football, like kind of like whatever, but Kenny Moore is a freaking beast in the slot. So pairing up those, or getting all 3 of those guys together, means that they're kind of prepared against every single receiving core in the league. Like, they can guard anybody in the slot, anybody on the outside. That Chiefs like triple threat of Rasheed Rice, Xavier Worthy, and Travis Kelce. They're in a great spot to defend those guys now because Sauce can be big enough and just probably take Kelce one-on-one, man-to-man. If you look in their own division, freaking Nico Collins is going to be in a box whatever side he goes on, whether it's he has to go against Mooney Ward or the guy Sauce Gardner. Whether you look in Jacksonville with Brian Thomas Jr. and Travis Hunter in the future, they're going to be boxed in just straight man coverage. It's such a powerful thing, and I'm really, really curious to see how it works out. Like the Falcons and the Colts game this week is at Sunday at 8:30 in the morning for me. And, usually I like to sleep in Sunday morning and catch the games at 12. But I might actually have to wake up for that one because seeing what Lou Anarumo does with those guys, it'll be so cool. Not to mention also, I completely forgot, they have Cam Bynum, one of my favorite safeties in the league, covering the sky. That's so powerful in the secondary. And the Lou Anarumo part of it. Like, this was the guy who had the most success against Kansas City before Vic Fangio and Philly came along. He was like the guy who could hold Kansas City, maybe not to like Philly did to like 6 points in meaningful time. But if you look at what he did with those Bengals rosters, which are really not that good on defense, and what they did to Patrick Mahomes, it was impressive. Like, that was like the secret. That was their little secret sauce. It wasn't just Joe Burrow. Like, it was that Bengals defense really containing him, holding them to 20 points a game. So there had to be a reason, right? You don't trade 2 first-round picks like the GM without having a very, very solid reason. It's like, okay, this guy is going to be my Swiss Army knife. He's going to be my chess piece. And clearly Lou Anarumo wanted that chess piece. So seeing what he's gonna do with Sauce Gardner, possibly against KC, which is looking like where I don't know why I keep bringing up KC, but like KC, Buffalo, any of the AFC contenders, um, it'll be interesting to see that one. Sorry. If you look at Sauce Gardner in particular, of course, his rookie year he was the best, or he was really really good. He was like all pro. He won Defensive Rookie of the Year, absolute stud. It looked like that the Jets had found the best corner in the league for a long period of time, and then we started to see a bit of a drop off. Right, didn't look as good as he did. The pick total started to go down a good bit. Started having problems with like holding and being a little too physical at the corner spot, but he is still a really, really good corner. It is kind of like a fan-driven narrative that, oh, Sauce Gardner is completely fallen off and he's not the same he was before. Because he's, no, he's still like a great corner. Like, he's still good enough to be able to put, go set him on their number one receiver, and you should be fine, especially man coverage. And especially with the Bengals and Lou, I think man is kind of what they prefer. So he's going to be really, really good for them in that role. I don't think he's in like the tier of Derek Stingley, Patrick Surtain of like, the number one high echelon tier, but he's like right next to them. He's right in that second tier. And again, him with Mooney Ward is going to be really, really fun whenever he comes back. As for the price they gave up, I touched on it before. Like, the fact that it is the deadline means it's going to be a little more expensive. The same way Jalen Phillips probably shouldn't have gone for a third, considering all of his injury concerns. But giving up 2 firsts for any secondary piece is kind of crazy. Like, in the nicest way possible. It is a move that I love for them this year. I think it's going to make them really fun and helps them like stay in that contender tier even after that rough week against the Steelers. But 2 firsts for a secondary piece is kind of killer. Obviously, there's the bad side, which I think a lot of people always think of, which is Jamal Adams, where the Seahawks gave up 2 first-round picks to go get him. And it was like one of those things that really was like the final dagger for the Russell Wilson era in Seattle. And if you look at like Jalen Ramsey, which I think happened at the beginning of the year, like 4 years ago for the Rams. If you look at that trade, it was like he was good for them for a year. Big part of them winning that Super Bowl, even though he had like that crazy T. Higgins like pull out his face mask catch. I don't know why. Now I'm just reminiscing about that Super Bowl, but Ramsey didn't live up to the 2 first-round picks billing. So I think people are always a little hesitant when they see sort of that stuff. They also had to give up Adonai Mitchell in the trade, which, like, whatever. It's clear that they were done with him after that Rams incident. It's clear that they preferred Pittman, Pierce, Downs. So he was their receiver 4, who they already didn't like because of the whole, dropping it in the end zone thing. So they were done with him. The good part of that is at least that first-round pick, like I mentioned before, will be late. That's kind of big. But that next year pick. This is where I would have had some pause as the Indiana GM, maybe really slam the door or slam it of like first and second this year, or it's not the NBA, so you can't protect a pick. But the thing that scares me is Daniel Jones is a free agent after this year, so they're gonna have to make a decision on Daniel Jones, considering the fact that their first round pick is gone. So even though I have been a big Colts guy, right? I've slammed. I'm like they're just a really really good team, and there's no way around it. Giving Daniel Jones big money for the next 5 years is something I'm still just going to have pause about, right? We saw him have a really, really good year with the Giants a couple of years ago. So unless the Colts go on like this giant playoff run and it's like very clear Daniel Jones is the guy, they're going to have a hell of a decision to make in the offseason. And you don't want to be in the Minnesota spot where you kind of gave up on Sam Darnold for what looks like not as much, even though I thought J.J. McCarthy played great this week. Right now, that Minnesota team with Sam Darnold would still be better. Right, because we see what he's doing in Seattle. He's stealing. Want to like give up Daniel Jones and have that, and then fall in that category. So, it's right now the fact that they don't have a true starting quarterback on their roster next year, and they give up that first round pick, scares the hell out of me. hopefully for the Colts' sake, I'm assuming this is what their perspective is like, we know Daniel Jones is our guy for at least this year and next year. So we don't mind giving up that first round pick. We know that Jonathan Taylor and this offensive line are still going to be beasts next year. So it's okay. We know that pick is going to be 25 to 32 next year as well. And if that's correct, then you know what? This is a good move. I like it. But if it's not, that next year's first round pick. So I think this is a type of trade where we'll see, obviously everyone's going to drop their like initial trade grades of like, oh, the Jets fleeced them, or oh, the Colts got this beast for nothing. Like, I actually don't think anyone's had that takeaway now that I say it. But this is one of those trades we're really going to have to wait and see until the end of this year to give it a good grade. Now moving on to the Cowboys side of it. How about damn Cowboys? So I thought this was fun. Jerry Jones teased before Monday Night Football on the radio that the Cowboys had a big trade made. And it's like, and he's like, oh, I can't say who it is. I can't say who it is. Classic Jerry. Go farm the media for a little bit of attention, get some, some impressions, some clicks on the Cowboys stuff. And they got cooked on Monday night by the Cardinals, which I'll probably talk about at some point this week. Because they got dominated in that game. So good, in fact, that a few minutes ago, Jakobi Brissett just got named a starter over Kyler Murray, which the day Kyler Murray got benched, man, it's crazy. We're getting distracted. But we see that come out, and then they get cooked, and then to the next day, so today, we get a notification early in the morning that they traded for Logan Wilson from the Bengals for a 7th round pick. And it's like, really, Jerry? Really? That was the big trade you cooked up? That was the one that needed hyping up for the full day and past your shit Monday night performance. But then, I guess a few hours passed. And then it was like, okay, Quinnen Williams drops. And it's like, okay, Jerry, I see what you did. All right, that's fair. That was, okay, I see. So Quinnen Williams for a 2nd round pick this year, and then a 1st round pick next year that is either the Packers or the Cowboys, whichever one's better. Which I didn't know you could actually do, by the way. I fully thought it was like you had to just pick a draft choice to go. I didn't know you could give a choice or like do a better or worse option like the NBA can. I don't think I've seen that. Maybe I'm wrong. Anyways, so Quinnen Williams, if you look at his contract, he is relatively cheap for the next 2 years, or like this year and then the next 2 years after that. So I want to say he's making like $20 million for the Cowboys, right? Obviously the Jets have to eat some of the dead cap and the guaranteed money. So he's relatively cheap. And now we can look back at the Micah trade, and it was, they got 2 firsts back, and now they used one of those firsts plus a 2nd for Quinnen. So they probably traded up from their 2nd round pick, like 20 or 30 slots, whatever, to wherever Green Bay ends up falling at the end of this year. So they get better draft capital, and they turned Micah, who is going to be a very, very expensive player for them. I think he ends up costing the Packers $47 million a year. So they turned that 47 into 20, at least for the short term, with Quinnen Williams. And they still have a beast on that defensive line. Now, if that was the move the Cowboys made at the start of this season, I would have been like, okay, that was crazy as shit to trade Micah. But I can't say that this is a completely stupid move. I can't say that was like, you're an absolute buffoon. But that's not what they did. The fact that Quinnen is brought in, like, Quinnen is going to do nothing for them this year. I'm sorry. The Cowboys are not going to, be a magically good now defense and fix all of their issues. The Cowboys have so many problems on that defense. They're getting no good corner play. They're not getting linebacker play. They're not getting safety play. They're not getting D-line play. And their DC is shit. Every single part of that defense is bad and needs a giant overhaul. I don't care if Quinnen Williams was Max Crosby. It was not fixing that defense. So it's more of a thing of like, I really do like it for next year now. Because obviously they still have 2 first-round picks to work with this year. Hopefully they bring in a new DC for Cowboys fans' sakes. And, obviously in free agency, I don't know how much money they'll have to spend, but they can sort of look to add or subtract in free agency. And they can start to build that defense around Quinnen, which could work. I honestly think that, that's a good plan. So it took, I guess, right around 10 weeks, but I'm starting to see Jerry's vision here a little bit when it comes to the Micah trade. Again, Quinnen is not the player that Micah Parsons is. I want to make that very clear. But the fact that they were able to save like $25 million a year on that contract, kind of, I mean, like, I still hate it. It's one of those things where I think I've been thinking about it for like the last few hours, and I still haven't come up with like a solid thing of like whether I like it or I hate it. And I think it's just because like I'm just starting to understand it a little bit. Um. Anyways, sorry, I just got fully distracted with that. They did have to give up a haul. Like, there's no way around it. The Jets openly said like they're not going to trade Quinnen unless they get blown away by an offer. And a first and a second plus Mozzie Smith was getting blown away. That was a very, very good offer. And Mozzie Smith for the Cowboys was a healthy scratch. Like, he clearly didn't work out. That was an absolute bust of a pick a few years ago. This Dow, I really like their interior defensive line now, of course, with Quinnen Williams and why is it right now working? Kenny Clark. So those two together, plus Donovan Ezeraku, who was a rookie for them this year, who I really liked coming out of the draft, seeing what he can do in his second year. Again, for any Cowboys fan who now delusionally has hope this year, fully erase it. Quinnen Williams was not the missing piece. The chessboard is empty right now. You need all of the pieces to fix it. So, as much as like a queen would help, still got all those other pieces. That was so nerdy. I'm sorry. Anyways, again, for next year, I'm again starting to see the vision. Other notable move from today, we had Jakobi Meyers going to the Jaguars, which there's not too much to talk about with that one. That was the Raiders had been long and rumored to deal with Jakobi Meyers for the last few months, really. Jakobi Meyers very clearly did not want to be there. And now he goes to Jacksonville for poor guy Jakobi Meyers. I want to say in the last few years, his quarterbacks have been Mac Jones, Derek Carr, Jimmy Garoppolo, Aiden O'Connell, Geno Smith, and now Trevor Lawrence. So, is it technically better going from Geno to Trevor? Sure. Is it still good? No. So, poor Jakobi Meyers in that situation. I was hoping he could go. I was hoping he'd go to New England, and then he would be with Drake May and co. But anyways, he's now with Jacksonville, who has a ton of receiver injuries. Obviously, the notable one was Travis Hunter. He's going to be out for the next few weeks with a mysterious knee injury that he randomly had during practice. And then now we got reports that like Brian Thomas Jr. has this like low grade ankle sprain, that high ankle sprain that might bother him for the next few weeks. So getting receiver depth for Jacksonville was a good move, especially at the price of like a fourth and a sixth, which, if I'm being honest, wasn't that much to give up at all for a player like Jakobi Meyers. And there's reports that they want to extend him, so probably like in like the $20 million per year range. So pretty good. Raiders side of it, not much to say. Like, they got a fourth and a sixth for a player they weren't going to keep past this year. Good move. And the other move, which was really, really fun, again, not for me as a Niners fan, but a fun move in terms of what it does for this team. The Seahawks getting Rasheed Shaheed from the Saints was really interesting, and it was unfortunate when I saw that come up on my feed, because Rasheed Shaheed gives them like that element of like burner speed that they just did not have on the roster. Like, as much as I like their rookie Torrey Horton, the upgrade from him to Shaheed is going to be pretty big. Cooper Kupp for them has not panned out at all. He really like very much looks like washed as hell, and they're not going to get much out of him. So putting Rasheed Shaheed into like that wide receiver 2 role and just letting him go on burners, have JSN crossers with that too. It's going to be so good. Rasheed Shaheed pull out his safety, have JSN run to the gap there. Oh man, it's going to work. And then especially with how good Sam Darnold's looked this year and how well he's throwing the deep ball, even just like a simple streak to Shaheed. So there's so much that Clinton Kubiak, the Seahawks OC, he's now reunited with Rasheed Shaheed. So, and he was using him really, really well before he got injured. It's going to be scary and fun to see what the Seahawks do with Shaheed. And for the Saints, again, similar boat. Shaheed was a guy they're not going to keep. They're looking to rebuild to get draft capital. Fourth and fifth is a great return out of Shaheed, especially because I think his contract's expiring. So the fact that they're able to get a fourth and a fifth out of him is pretty good. Now, with that being said, obviously, it is hard to grade any trade right now. Like I mentioned before with the Sauce Gardner thing, you can't say anybody's like outright, this team made a mistake. But we are going to do the best that we can right now. We have the winners and the losers of the trade deadline. And I'm going to start on a positive note. I'm going to start with the winners. I have Dallas as a winner right now, just because As much as I don't know how to think about it in terms of the Micah Parsons trade. I know that getting a freaking beast on the interior is such a good move. Look at the Chiefs and Chris Jones. Some edge rushers get all the love, but sometimes a dominant pass rushing interior defensive lineman does so much work, especially with how many teams just don't value interior offensive line. My Niners. Like, that's a good move. That's a really, really good move. The Jets I also have on here because I just love that mentality of getting all of those young guys in, or getting all those young picks in. Sorry, and like letting Aaron Glenn really build the team the way he wants to. I have Daniel Jones on here as well because come the end of this season, he's gonna have some pretty good leverage. I'll be like, really? You're gonna tell me you're not gonna re-sign me? You're gonna go with Anthony Richardson when you don't have your own first round pick? He's gonna hit the LeBron. Like, I have no idea how I could recreate it, but yeah, no, you're not doing that. Yeah, give me my money, give me my long term extension. He's gonna be in a really, really good spot for that. And then I have Sauce and Quinnen Williams. Not necessarily because the Jets are just such a disaster, yada yada. Again, I like what they're doing now with the organization, but they were very clearly now they were going to be on a team that is not going to contend in the next few years, and now they're going to a 7-2 team, and the Cowboys, who are 3-5-1, but at least it's better than the Jets. Now for the losers, this is where I'm going to spend a bit more time. I have the two teams that didn't sell as much as they should have. I have Tennessee and Miami. The fact that Tennessee at the end of this is going to come out with a fourth for Draymond Jones, and that's it, is unbelievable. And like such Tennessee, man, I hate the way they run their organization so much. The fact that they didn't look to move like anybody else. Arden Key, really? Like, I feel like so many teams could have used an Arden Key, and they would happily give him a 6th or a 7th round pick. And instead, he's just going to sit there and rot, probably be like walk at the end of this year, and you just get nothing for him. Why? Like, just trade your freaking vets. Why are you not looking to move Calvin Ridley? Go get a 4th for Calvin Ridley and move on. Like, what is Calvin Ridley going to do for your team right now? I'm like trying to think of other veterans they could have moved. Obviously, they shouldn't have moved any of their offensive linemen or like their young offensive linemen. Like, I saw a preview where it's like they could trade Peter Skoronski. That would have been dumb. I'm glad they didn't do that. But yeah, I don't know. The fact that Tennessee ends up making one trade is crazy to me. Oh, I guess they traded Roger McCreary earlier, but they have a couple of vets who they're just hanging on to for no reason. Next one, Miami. Same vein. Why the hell is Bradley Chubb on your roster? What are you going to do with him? Even if the best offer you got was a 4th, take the 4th. Because you don't have Jalen Phillips. Your team's very clearly rebuilding. So by the time you're ever going to need Bradley Chubb's services, it's going to be 3 years from now and you'll be like 34 and not on your team. So I don't get that one. I would have kind of pulled the Jets and potentially looked to move Waddle, because teams would have given you more than a first round pick, because he's young, he's dynamic, and kind of the same problem of like, what are you going to do with Jalen Waddle? It's probably not going to be used with Tua right now or past this year. So I would have sort of struck right now when teams are very clearly desperate to go for the championship, because it's so open this year. And again, that's like my bigger general takeaway of like the league is at such a high state of parity right now. Like, there are so many teams who could win the championship that I feel like any team that is struggling, that didn't give up an asset during this trade deadline, probably wasn't thinking too hard. Like, that is something where teams were very clearly willing to overpay at the deadline. Like, Jalen Phillips should not have gone for a 3rd. Sauce Gardner shouldn't have gone for 2 firsts. Quinnen Williams shouldn't have been a 1st and a 2nd. But teams are desperate. Next big loser I have is Cincinnati. The fact that they didn't move Hendrickson is, excuse my language, it's fucking baffling. I don't understand what the hell they're doing. I know Mike Brown is a giant idiot who, should not be an owner, and holy shit, for the sake of Bengals fans, one day he should sell the team, because not moving Trey Hendrickson was genuinely one of the dumbest moves any team has made in the past year. I don't get it. They didn't move him in the offseason where they could have gotten a 1st and change. They didn't move him at the trade deadline where they could have gotten a 2nd because they held out on a 1st. What is he going to do? this is like, yeah, I'm a Niners fan, so this one's really frustrating to me because we tried to call for Hendrickson for weeks. Hendrickson is now just going to walk at the end of this year, and you're getting a comp third round pick in 2027. Yeah, that math, that's right. What the hell? Why? What is a 2027 third round pick going to do for your roster of, Joe Burrow eventually, Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, and no defense? Like, this made what the Bengals did with Trey Hendrickson just makes absolutely no sense. If you know you didn't want to extend him, trade him. Like, trade him in the offseason when you could have gone to first. You could have used that first round pick in the draft and potentially taken someone else, not Shamar Stewart, who doesn't do anything. And I feel like 100 draft scouts could have told you he's not going to do anything. Cincinnati, man. Organizational incompetence. I still find it baffling that this team was this close to beating Kansas City 2 years ago in the AFC Championship and did beat them 3 years ago and probably should have a ring. Whatever. The another team I have on here is the Niners. The fact that we didn't make any moves at the deadline is really baffling to me. The Super Bowl is in your freaking stadium, and you're 6-3, 3-0 in division. You pulled off a win with Mac Jones at quarterback against the freaking Rams. You beat the Seahawks week 1, which is now looking like one of the most impressive victories of the year, going to Seattle and winning. But I don't, and not even getting an Arden Key for a 7th round pick. Why? Like, there's so many injuries that this team has faced. And there was actual replacements out there. The most available position this deadline was edge, right? Bradley Chubb, Jalen Phillips, Arden Key, Trey Hendrickson. There were guys out there at that edge rusher spot. Oh, Jermaine Johnson, that's another one. And not moving them kind of or not making a move for any of them makes no sense. Now you are forced to just go at this with Bryce Huff and Sam Okwonu, and that's it. Really, really hated the fact that the Niners didn't make any moves, especially because there was offensive lineman available too. With this team's interior offensive line problems, Jackson Power Johnson from the Raiders was rumored to be available. No dice. Nick Allegretti and some other Commanders lineman was available. No dice. Another loser I have, the biggest individual loser of this is Breece Hall. He very clearly stated he wanted out, and he was the only player who wanted out who did not actually get out. Actually, no. Quinnen Williams wanted out. But Breece Hall very clearly has wanted out for a while. And no team was willing to meet his asking price of a 3rd round pick. I think the Chiefs' rumored offer was a 4th that could be a 3rd. The Jets declined. I also have Hendrickson on here because he's stuck on Cincinnati now. Good news for him is he'll be able to pick whatever team he goes to in the offseason. And then I also just have like all of the AFC contenders. The fact that Kansas City didn't try to get like one up on some other team. The fact that Buffalo didn't. The fact that New England didn't. New England especially was like, I would have liked a receiver trade for them, even though Diggs and Kayshon Boutte have been really good. One more would have been nice. Any sort of like edge rusher, something to add to the defense would have been nice. Maybe not edge rusher. But the fact that they didn't make any moves kind of surprised me because of how their conference is shaping up. Yeah, that's sort of all I have on the trade deadline. That was a good 40 minutes. So I'm going to move into the Bills and the Chiefs game right now. And this is, I know it's going to be running kind of long. So I will post this podcast as a whole, but I will just clip out just the trade deadline part and just this Bills Chiefs thing. So we're good there. Bills Chiefs. This was obviously game of the week, heading into a whole year. This was the game, of course, you get big Sharpie, you circle this one. It's like, all right, yeah, this is like that game. We get it every year of the Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes classic. And in this one, like it seems to happen every regular season, the Bills and Josh Allen prevailed. This was a game where Josh Allen's completion percentage was at 88%. Patrick Mahomes was at 44%. One of the worst games of his career, which was crazy. And I've heard so many people talk about this game. But the one thing that I do agree with the national media, it's like whenever there is one simple recipe to beating Patrick Mahomes. It's just that it's really hard to do it. If you can get pressure with 4 or even get any sort of pressure on him and not completely fall apart in the back end, easiest way to beat Patrick Mahomes. Because he really does not look like himself. He looks like a human at quarterback, which when he usually looks like a god. So the fact that they were able to contain him, really not make him look great at all this game, was impressive as hell. Joey Bosa played a great game up till that 4th and 17 where he got freaking duped to hell and fully thought that they were running a screen when they just weren't. He needed to just charge and hit Mahomes, and that would have won the game way earlier for him. And overall, this is a game that I really don't know how it was that close. Because when you watch it, the Bills dominated every single facet of that game. For a good, like, I want to say, like, the middle 40 minutes of the game, Buffalo had just completely cooked Kansas City. And they were up 15 heading into that fourth quarter. So the fact was KC was down 7 with 2 shots at the ball and 2 shots. Kind of crazy to me. Or not by 2 shots, sorry. 2 drives. They did have a few Hail Marys to end it, but I mean, like, 2 drives to go win the game. And Kansas City's offensive line looked rough. Very clearly they felt the loss of Josh Simmons. They also had Juwan Taylor out for a good portion of this game, which, I mean, like, I know Wanya Morris isn't a great offensive tackle, but it's not like Juwan Taylor's very good either. So that was just like, I saw that as an excuse. That one I didn't really feel too strong about. And yeah, for Buffalo, big takeaway for them is just like, if you looked at the teams they'd beaten this year, it wasn't great. It was a murderer's row of absolute dog shit. There was nothing there. So the fact that they got this like big, huge quality win, not to mention they really needed it to keep pace with the Patriots in that division, because the Patriots just have so many easy games in a row. Like the amount of layups they finally have like a difficult one against Tampa, and then they go back to layups until mid-December. So keeping pace with New England is huge. And that defense, because it hadn't looked great, especially against good teams. But seeing what that defense did to Kansas City, being able to get that much pressure was huge. And I really do like their rookie corner, Maxwell Harrison. Seemed like a perfect pick. When you know the amount of times you have to play Kansas City with Xavier Worthy's speed, with Rasheed Rice, with now even Tyquan Thornton pushing the edge. Getting like a really, really fast corner like that, great move. He had this like one really awesome rep against Xavier Worthy that was like trending all over social media, where, just one-on-one, he kept pace with them and he was able to fully bat it away. So Bills look really good. I'm not gonna like, I know some people are like coming out of this saying, oh, well, it's a regular season, it didn't count. So why the fuck do we play the games? Like, I'm sorry. The fact that it's like, oh, the Chiefs from this game could only get like positives out of it, and the Bills like, oh, it just doesn't matter what they do. So then why the fuck do we play the games? Just simulate to the end of regular season. It's like Madden. Just close your eyes and then we'll start watching during the playoffs. Because I'm going to take away from the fact of like, the Bills can dominate the Chiefs. We absolutely know they can. And I saw some stuff. I was listening to Nick Wright. I don't know why I do that to myself. But I think Nick Wright actually as a person, like political takes are actually really good. I think he just says dumb shit on TV just to like farm engagement, but whatever. I was listening to that and it's like, oh, the Chiefs purposely came out with this vanilla game plan. It's just a scouting report and they're going to use it and they're actually going to pull out their real game plan against Buffalo in the postseason. And it's like, no, that's not how that works. Nope. There is never a point in the NFL where a team is like, you know what? We're going to put in the shit game plan today. Yeah, see this thing? Yeah, we're going to use the garbage version of the playbook, not the real one. We're just going to use the little tiny one, and we're not going to reveal anything. Like, no, it's a huge game. It's a regular season against your biggest rival, not to mention they're down 2 games in the division. So, no, it was not a practice game, whatever. And there's no guarantee that they're going to play each other, because right now Kansas City's probably will be the 5 seed. With how Denver's looking, and they're like having such a large lead in that division. Sorry, too much yelling. With Kansas City now looking pretty far behind Denver, they're probably going to end up, with this loss, they might actually lose that division, which is crazy. So them playing Buffalo is not guaranteed at all. In fact, it would probably be very unlikely. So saying that I don't know how sometimes things get said on national TV the way they do. And also like, some of the Bills players had quotes after the game, like Maxwell Harrison was like, oh, they have a few tells. Xavier Worthy like just looks different right at the snap if he's running or a play or if they're actually just running the ball. And some other stuff like their safety said. And it's like, oh, look, they got these inside secrets. The scouting report worked. Like, no, they had tells. That's a normal thing. It's not anything like surprising. If you look, Patrick Peterson 2 years ago, right before they played the Niners, was like, oh, look, there's this tells I'm going to use, and I'm going to use it to pick off Brock Purdy. And instead he got cooked for 2 touchdowns. Like, there are definitely tells. Like, a receiver is just not going to push and release the exact same way if it's a run or a pass. No shit. So that was its own frustrating thing. I don't know. Whenever I talk about the stuff the national media says about, like, big games like this, I always get so frustrated. Because it's clear that they don't know anything about football and they're just trying to drive engagement. It's dumb. On the Bills, or no, not on the Bills side of it, sorry. On the Chiefs side of it, like I mentioned, they are now down, I want to say 2.5 games for that division. I want to say the Broncos have a better divisional record. I could be wrong though. I think they're down 2.5 games in the division now. They do have 2 games against the Broncos in their schedule, and now they really have to win both if they want to have any chance at the division. They can't split with Denver. I thought earlier that they 100% could find a way to split with Denver and still win the division, but no, the Kansas City Chiefs have lost all margin of error, and yes, they could still be really dangerous as like a wild card, but realistically, most wild cards do not win the Super Bowl. Like just flat out. I want to say the last one that did was Tampa 5 years ago, and they had Tom Brady at quarterback with an unbelievable roster. So it's really hard as a wild card to go and win the Super Bowl. So while again Kansas City could do it, I think it's safe to say that's not the path they would want to take at all. And every like Broncos win for them right now is like so killer. So they have to find a way to beat Denver in those 2 games. Those are now going to be like those are the 2 biggest games of Kansas City's season by far. Outside of the postseason. Sorry. It's been a long shoot. And the other stuff I wanted to say, they really, like that defense was coming off of such a high in the last few games. They've been playing really well. They shut down Detroit. They held, obviously, the Raiders to 3 points. They had that one blip against Jacksonville, but it looked like that defense was fully back. And to see them struggle the way they did against Buffalo was really surprising because they did not put up much of an effort at all. It was like Josh Allen looked so comfortable in that pocket. James Cook was the first 100-yard rusher they've had in like the last year. And it looked like they kind of just had no answers. Like whenever Spags would dial up a blitz, Josh Allen would just find a wide open guy, or hell, even they tush pushed a couple times, and like it just didn't look super Chiefs like on that defensive side of the ball, which is something I'd be a little concerned about because like that Buffalo offense didn't have a ton of firepower, and they were able to still do that, which was surprising. Again, their offense just dominated that game, and to see the Chiefs offense kind of take a step back this game. And for Patrick Mahomes to really struggle against that pressure, that offensive line is not, even with Josh Simmons back, it does not fix all of their problems at that O-line. They can still very clearly get beat by good rushes. So, like, Philadelphia now with, like, Jalen Phillips, Jalen Carter, 2 Jalen's, by the way. Interesting. And they have Jalen Hurts. That's 3 Jalen's. But Jalen Phillips, Jordan Davis, Jalen Carter, and their other edge rusher, whose name I'm forgetting right now, Joe Hunt. Like, they still 100% would raise big problems for Kansas City. The Colts with Laiya Tulatu and DeForest Buckner 100% could raise problems with them. Like Joey Bosa and the Bills front without Ed Oliver should not have raised the amount of problems that they did for Kansas City. And I'm really surprised they didn't go for Nick Allegretti at the deadline. That seemed like such a easy Chiefs plug and play type of move, but whatever, they didn't. And also the running game with Kareem Hunt and Pacheco. I know Pacheco was out for this game, but it's just not very good. There's no burst with their running backs. Whenever I've talked about the Chiefs, that's the thing I've talked about so often. It's like Kareem Hunt is the greatest running back at getting like 1 to 2 yards I've ever seen. But if you need him to get more than 4, you have a real issue. And so they have like just a thumper with Kareem Hunt. And then Pacheco just hasn't looked good at all ever since the fibula injury. So it's not seeing them not even get like a mid running back, and like giving up a 6th rounder was surprising. So that Chiefs running game probably isn't going to be much better. Of course, Mahomes will be better, right? Come the postseason, they'll always find a way. They do, and especially he does. But I think it's something that raised a lot of questions for them. So we'll see with Kansas City. Again, I think the biggest takeaway for them is now you have to look at those 2 Denver games, and it's like that could be the thing that makes or breaks the Chiefs' season. And I know it's crazy to say that before the postseason has even started, because it feels like such an obvious thing of like, oh, they'll obviously be back in the AFC Championship game. Oh, they'll obviously win the AFC West. Like, no. Look at those 2 games. That's going to be huge, especially with there's like, I want to say 9 teams that could be in the AFC playoff race, and they don't want to be in a dogfight to go get one of those wild card spots. Yeah, that is my overall reaction to the trade deadline and the Bills-Chiefs game. I want to talk Bears-Bengals, Vikings-Lions, Colts-Steelers. Hopefully I get to those at some point midweek. I want to say I'm going to try and record those tomorrow because I have so many thoughts about those games, especially that Bears-Bengals game. Oh my God, was that freaking absurd. And yeah, I want to thank you guys all for listening. It was a really, really fun trade deadline, even if my Niners didn't make any moves. And yeah, thank you so much for listening. I hope you all have a phenomenal day.